Nobody saw it coming when the invisible woman became the most powerful person in the room. The office buzzed with the usual morning energy, coffee brewing, keyboards clacking, executives exchanging hurried greetings. But no one noticed Evelyn as she slipped in through the side door, pushing her cleaning cart with quiet determination. Dressed in her dark green uniform, she moved like clockwork, calm, focused, invisible. To them, she was just the cleaning lady, the one who emptied their trash cans, wiped their fingerprints off the glass walls, and occasionally received a nod from the few who bothered to acknowledge her. For years, Evelyn had drifted through the halls of Hawthorne and Beck like a ghost, unseen, unheard, unimportant. She was in her mid-50s now, familiar with the routine and the way people looked right through her. She'd overheard more than enough smug jokes and careless remarks to know exactly how little they thought of her. Just last week, someone muttered, "She's not even doing anything right now," as she waited patiently for a meeting to end so she could clean up. Evelyn didn't flinch. She never did. Her silence was her shield, her stillness, a strategy. But what they didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Evelyn had a secret. One that could flip the entire building upside down. And while she believed in patience, in watching, in waiting, today she was nearing her breaking point. The morning unfolded like clockwork. She polished the lobby glass until it gleamed, vacuumed the thick carpet without missing a corner. Tidy piles of forgotten paperwork were neatly arranged on desks. All while the air filled with casual talks of bonuses, deals, and promotions. One conversation, though, sliced through the noise. "The shareholders' meeting is next week," an executive said, his voice dripping with confidence. "We've got nothing to worry about. The board loves the numbers, and the CEO, he's untouchable. No one in their right mind would challenge him." Evelyn's hand tightened around the cart's handle. If only they knew how wrong they were. But she didn't linger, not yet. There was still work to do. Hawthorne and Beck was known for its gleaming image. Its glass tower in the heart of Dallas graced the covers of business magazines, hailed as a symbol of modern corporate success. But inside it was another story, ruthless culture, backroom deals, and a hierarchy built on fear. Evelyn had watched it all, year after year. Promotions handed to the loudest, not the best. Mistakes buried by blaming the powerless. And at the top, CEO in greaves, sharp suit, sharper tongue. A man who led by intimidation and treated people like pawns. "She's still here?" She once heard him scoff about a secretary. "Why haven't we retired her yet? What's she even adding?" But Evelyn? Evelyn was always listening, always watching. She knew where the skeletons were buried because she was the one who cleaned up the messes, both literal and otherwise, and soon. The one no one ever saw was about to be the one no one could ignore. Evelyn had endured the brunt of the company's toxic culture for years. She'd seen co-workers cry in storage closets after being scolded for leaving behind a single speck of dust. She watched their paychecks stay painfully still, even as their workloads quietly doubled. And the worst part? The way their basic humanity was brushed aside, as if they were invisible fixtures, not living, breathing people. People avoided eye contact, spoke to them like children, treated them like background noise. One memory in particular still stung. A nervous young intern had spilled coffee on the marble floor near CEO Allen's office. He froze, panic written all over his face, just as Allen turned the corner. "Are you kidding me?" Allen barked, eyes immediately locking onto Evelyn, who happened to be walking by with her mop and bucket. "Clean this up," he snapped, like it was her fault, like she was the one who spilled it. She said nothing. She didn't have to. The intern stammered out an apology, but Allen brushed him off like a fly. To him, people like Evelyn and that intern were nothing, just noise in the background. Incidents like that had piled up over the years, each one a tiny stone added to the growing mountain of quiet frustration. Evelyn's patience was admirable, but she wasn't made of stone. She felt the sting of every insult, the weight of every dismissal. But Evelyn didn't crumble. She absorbed it, stored it, let every moment strengthen her resolve. She might have been silent, but that silence was sharp. She was always watching, always listening. And the more she saw, the clearer it became. The company's glossy success was built on a foundation of exploited people. But Evelyn wasn't just keeping a mental journal. She was preparing, quietly, deliberately. And the time was coming when all the pieces she'd gathered would fall into place. What no one at Hawthorne and Beck realized was that Evelyn had a secret. A big one. She wasn't just a cleaning lady, she was the largest shareholder in the company. She had inherited the title after the unexpected death of her husband, Martin, a quiet investor who had believed in the company long before it rose to fame. Over the years, he had amassed a controlling stake. And when he passed, that power passed to Evelyn. At first, she didn't know what to do with it. She wasn't a businesswoman, not in the boardroom sense. She was Evelyn, a mother, a fighter, a woman who found peace in structure and routine. But as the years passed, something shifted. Being invisible turned out to be her greatest advantage. She could move through the building unnoticed, listening, watching, learning everything about the people who thought they ran the place. And then came the moment that changed everything. It was a quiet evening. Evelyn had just finished wiping down the executive lounge when she overheard two senior managers laughing over drinks. They were talking about upcoming layoffs, laughing, joking about how easy it was to get rid of dead weight. "Some of these people actually think their jobs matter," one of them sneered. "They don't even realize how replaceable they are." Evelyn stood frozen behind the door, the cleaning cloth clenched in her hand. Her heart ached, not just for herself, but for everyone who had been treated like they were disposable. These weren't just line items on a spreadsheet. They were people with families, bills, dreams. That night, Evelyn sat at her small kitchen table with a cup of tea and a notepad. She didn't know exactly where she was going with it, but she knew she couldn't stay quiet anymore. She began to write. Every unethical practice she had seen, every injustice, every name, every moment. By sunrise, she had the beginnings of a plan that could change everything. Step 1. Dig deeper. Using her unique access to the building, she began collecting the kind of information most people wouldn't even think twice about. She paid attention to conversations, noted office patterns, and occasionally glanced at documents carelessly left out in the open. She wasn't stealing, she was connecting the dots. Step 2. Bring in reinforcements. She still had a few trusted friends on the outside, people who believed in doing the right thing, people who would help her when the time was right. The people Evelyn reached out to weren't just friends, they were experts. Former employees who had walked away in frustration, seasoned lawyers who understood corporate law inside and out, and financial analysts who could spot cooked books from a mile away. She shared everything she knew and asked for their help, not to burn it all down, but to build something better. Together they began to craft a strategy, one that would do more than just expose the rot beneath the surface. It would protect the good people still working inside and reshape the future of Hawthorne and Beck. But Evelyn knew the final step would be the hardest. Taking on the CEO and the board wasn't just about presenting evidence. It would take something deeper, courage, poise, and a belief in herself that had been chipped away year after year behind that cleaning cart. She stood in front of her mirror and practiced. Again and again, her voice was steady, her resolve unshakable. This wasn't just about her, it was about every person who had been ignored, underestimated, or treated like they didn't matter. The shareholders' meeting was only days away, and Evelyn was ready. She wasn't walking into that room as a cleaner. She was walking in as the majority shareholder, as someone with the power to shift the course of the company. But even with all that preparation, the weight of what she was about to do pressed heavily on her shoulders. This wasn't just a presentation. It was a reckoning. The morning of the meeting arrived, wrapped in buzz and bravado. Executives strutted through the building like kings and queens of the castle, their voices bubbling with confidence about another record-breaking year. No one noticed Evelyn wheeling her cart toward the top-floor conference room, her expression calm as ever. Just another day, they assumed, just the cleaning lady. The boardroom was polished to perfection, gleaming mahogany table, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Dallas skyline, and every seat filled with the company's most powerful people. Alan Greaves sat at the head, his trademark smirk firmly in place. Evelyn entered quietly as she always did. She placed a pitcher of water on the side table. No one looked at her. But this time, she didn't leave. "Excuse me," she said, her voice cutting through the room like a sudden gust of wind. Heads turned, confused glances, irritation. Alan barely spared her a glance. "We're in the middle of something," he said, already dismissing her. "I know," Evelyn replied evenly. "That's why I'm here." Alan leaned back in his chair, amused. "Unless you're here to clean up after us, I suggest you—" "I'm not," she said, stepping forward and pulling a folder from her cart. She placed it firmly on the table, the Hawthorne and Beck logo bold on the cover. Underneath, in crisp letters, "Shareholders Report." The room stilled. Alan's smirk faltered. "I've watched this company thrive while turning a blind eye to the people who make it run," Evelyn began, her voice unwavering. "I've seen good employees disrespected, ethics ignored, and profits placed above all else. I stayed quiet for a long time." She opened the folder. But not anymore. There were murmurs. One board member leaned forward, squinting at the documents. "What is this?" "This," Evelyn said, "is proof of everything. The backdoor layoffs, the buried harassment complaints, the financial misreporting. It's all here." Alan's voice exploded across the table. "Who do you think you are, marching in here and accusing me? You're just the cleaning lady." Evelyn met his glare with serene steel. "No, Mr. Greaves. I'm the majority shareholder of Hawthorne and Beck, and today I'm firing you." The silence was instant. Then came the ripples, shock, disbelief, tension slicing through the room like thunder. Alan's face turned pale. "You're joking!" She didn't blink. "No, I'm not." She turned to the rest of the board, her voice still calm but resolute. "I've spent years documenting what's been swept under the rug, and today I'm exercising my right to protect the company and everyone in it." The room erupted. Alan tried to argue, his voice louder now, tinged with panic. But the board members, staring at the evidence, realized something very quickly. This wasn't a joke. This was a reckoning, and Evelyn was holding all the cards. One by one, the board members turned to Evelyn, flipping through the folder, asking pointed questions, cross-checking the facts. And one by one, they realized the truth. She had done her homework. Every document, every complaint, every misstep was laid out in undeniable detail. It didn't take long for the vote. Alan Greaves was officially removed that very afternoon. His protests echoed uselessly off the polished walls as security led him out of the building. The same man who had once barked orders like a king was now just another ex-CEO, toppled not by scandal in the press, but by the quiet woman he'd never bothered to see. Evelyn stood tall in the boardroom, calm, unshaken. The same executives who used to look right through her now met her gaze with a mix of awe, guilt, and something else. Respect. But Evelyn didn't need their approval. Her eyes were already on what came next. By the following morning, the news had spread like wildfire. The office buzzed with disbelief and speculation. "Did you hear? Evelyn, the cleaning lady, is the majority shareholder." Break rooms filled with stunned whispers, but this time her name wasn't met with condescension. It was spoken with admiration, and maybe, just maybe, a little shame. But Evelyn wasn't there for the fanfare. She showed up the next day, not with a mop and bucket, but with a clipboard and a plan. This wasn't about revenge, it was about restoration. In the weeks that followed, Evelyn rolled up her sleeves and got to work. The first thing she did: shine a light on the people who had long been overlooked. The cleaning staff and support workers finally received the raises they deserved. Recognition replaced silence. Dignity replaced dismissal. She restructured HR, bringing in an independent third-party team to handle harassment and discrimination, complaints with real transparency. No more brushing things under the rug. The culture that had festered under Alan's rule was systematically dismantled. The board, once complicit, now had to walk the talk. Evelyn implemented regular trainings on ethics, inclusivity, mental health, and employee well-being. For the first time in years, people at Hawthorne and Beck felt seen, heard, valued. But Evelyn didn't stop at policy. She held open town hall meetings, inviting employees from every level to speak. She listened, really listened, and she made it clear this company belongs to all of us. One afternoon, as she walked through the office, a young intern stopped her. The same one who had once spilled coffee in front of Alan's office, the one who'd been frozen in fear. "Thank you," he said softly, sincerity shining in his eyes. "For everything. You changed this place." Evelyn smiled, her voice gentle but strong. "No," she said. "We changed it. Together." Outside, the Dallas skyline shimmered in the late sun. Evelyn paused at the entrance, looking up at the glass tower she had once walked into unnoticed. The road had been long, quiet, lonely at times, but she had done what few thought possible. This wasn't just about firing a CEO or cleaning house. It was about proving that even those who feel invisible can hold incredible power. That strength isn't always loud, and justice doesn't always arrive in a suit and tie. Evelyn showed the world that patience, integrity, and quiet courage can move mountains. She took a deep breath, peace blooming in her chest, and walked forward, not to disappear, but to begin a new chapter. Because life often underestimates the quiet ones. But Evelyn's story, it reminds us that the most unexpected people can spark the biggest change.